Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the session of the conference Iman, Taqwa, Jihad, Fi-Sabilillah, Pakistan Army's Way of War. Myself, Samadha Jain. I'm a researcher at Indian Researchers Forum, and it is my honor to introduce our esteemed speakers for the session. Major General Rajan Kochhar, Commodore Shrikant Deshmukh, Dr. Abhinav Pandya, Dr. Ashish Shukla, and Dr. Divya Malhotra. The session is chaired by Major General Rajan Kochhar. Major General Rajan Kochhar, Vishish Seva Medal, PhD, is a former Major Army General, Coordinates Group, Central Command. He has commanded key logistic units in the Indian Army, such as Commandant of a Central Ordnance Depot and Divisional Ordnance Units of an Infantry and Rapid Divisions. He has done active service in operational areas of Jammu and Kashmir and the Northeast. He is the recipient of the Vishish Seva Medal awarded by President of India. He has also been awarded the Army Commander's Commendation twice. He holds a doctorate in emotional intelligence and is a certified NLP practitioner coach. He is also serving as the Vice Chairman of National Council of News and Broadcasting. Presently, he is the advisor and subject matter expert at Union Public Service Commission and consulting partner at Must Manage Intellect. His recent book on breaking the Chinese myth has been a bestseller on Amazon. Thank you, sir, and welcome. And I welcome you to the conference.
Thank you, Samita. So kind of you for that very nice introduction. My warm welcome to all the panelists. I can see Divya, I can see Commodore Deshmukh, and I think the others would also be Ashish. Also, I see he has logged in. So it'll be a very interesting session. As a matter of fact, I think under the present circumstances, this is the key session because we are talking about war, a way of war with Pakistan. And my panelists are going to actually cover this entire gamut of war, starting from Pakistan's defense assets and capabilities, understanding the Pakistan Army, the corporate interest, the politics, and its asymmetric warfare and its close relation with the terrorist groups, Jaish-e Mohammad and Lashkar-e-Taiba, and of course, the famous propaganda factory of Pakistan, as we call them, masters of strategic communication. So, a brief preamble, and I'm sure all the four speakers we have today are persons of repute, immense knowledge on the subject, and would be of a great interest, I think, to all the students here who have joined us, the research scholars, and of course, compliments to Ashish of the Indic Research Forum, doing a wonderful job. And though this conference was planned much earlier, but I think the timing has become that it is very, very relevant, especially after the recent terrorist attack at Pahalgam and the war clouds with Pakistan on the horizon. The Indus Water Treaty has also been put into abeyance, and Pakistan has said that if you do that, it will be an act of war. So we are hearing strong statements from both sides of the border. And if the past record goes, what happened in Uri or Pulwama and the retaliation we gave, we can expect a much stronger retaliation from India. And very important here is that we have to understand our adversary, and in particular the Chief of the Army Staff of the Pakistan Army. There is an exercise in Staff College when I was attending that course in Wellington called Shatru Gyan. Shatru Gyan is an important exercise in which we try to understand the psyche of the commanders who are at that point of time, especially the army, the chief of the army staff, the army commanders, the co-commanders. So it's very important here also to understand who this General Munir is and what is he up to. So don't be surprised. I'm not doing the warmongering here, but don't be surprised that if you get into a limited conventional conflict, uh, very possible under the circumstances. The second important aspect is Pakistan Army. We all know, and of course, our panelists are going to tell us in detail. Pakistan Army is much uh, lesser in numbers, in manpower, in terms of tanks, in terms of aircraft, and you name it. So they cannot match the might of the Indian Army. And I'm telling you this with a great deal of conviction. So what do they resort to? They resort to a hybrid war or a non-kinetic means of war. And that is why bleeding India through 1,000 cuts, this strategy of General Ziaul Haq came into being. And it's been followed all by the successive chiefs of the Pakistan Army as well as the prime ministers of Pakistan. And we know this Shahbaz Sharif, he had hardly 10% of the votes and still he became, because there is something known as Pakistan Form 45. That Form 45 was sorted out by the army, it was delayed and it was tampered and everything was done. And he was made the prime minister, and that guy who was to be the prime minister is in jail today. So this is the reality of Pakistan you need to understand. And that is why we are dealing with a monkey on our back. Because you see, this monkey is not going to go back. This monkey will always be on our back. So what we have to do, we have to become the elephant in the room. And for becoming an elephant in the room, we have to build up our capabilities. I've been actually talking about this in various forums in the last number of years, that we need to build up our capabilities. Today, the Pakistan Army is being held by two countries. I want you to understand this: China and Turkey. And I've just written an article on this. It will get published on the Sunday. Most important here is that capability in terms of air power, and capability in terms of naval power, and capability in terms of drones. Today, the Pakistan Army has a drone brigade, and all the drones, Shahid 136, and you name it, are from Turkey. And so, Bayraktar drone and all these drones are coming. So, this Bayraktar drone is a mainstay, and Akinci UAV. These are the two things are the mainstay of the Pakistan drone brigade. Pakistan also, we need to remember that Pakistan has changed its nuclear strategy post 1998, and it has, from a limited deterrence, it has gone to a full spectrum deterrence, incorporating tactical nuclear weapons. So please keep in mind, when we go for war, and if what is the red line for Pakistan, we happen to cross that red line, then there would be a possibility of Pakistan unleashing tactical nuclear weapons in the war front. So it's not that we don't have it, we also have it, but that possibility you will have to factor in your planning when you fight against Pakistan. So let's finish this thing by your introduction into a small war game. This war game is taking us into finding out that what kind of actions are we going to do, and what will be the Pakistan's reaction. So uh, I have tried to analyze this into a short war game, and I've come to one conclusion, that we may not get into a full conflict with Pakistan. It will be at the most a limited conventional conflict, and there will be powers like USA, Russia, UAE, who will get into it to broker a ceasefire. So that will be the ultimate thing. Much will depend on Pakistan's response to what our strike, once it goes in, what kind of response we will face from Pakistan. For now, I will open the house, and I would like to invite uh, Commodore SL Deshmukh to give a talk on Pakistan's defense assets and capabilities. And I would request Sabita to kindly introduce our guest speaker of the day.
Thank you, sir. Commodore S.L. Deshmukh, Nausena Medal retired, has served in the Indian Navy for 32 years. He holds qualifications both in marine and aviation fields. He served on board ships and aircraft carriers. He is specialist on maintenance of fighter aircraft and anti-submarines warfare helicopters. He held many operational appointments on board ships and administrative appointments, including Principal Director at Naval Headquarters, Commodore Superintendent Naval Aircraft Yard, Director, Naval Institute of Aeronautical Technology, and Project Director of a Naval Aviation Project. Post-retirement from the Indian Navy, he worked with Tata Group for over 5 years and Sun Group's Aerospace and Defense Vertical at Gurugram as Senior Vice President for 12 years. He is currently in Pune, guiding SMEs in the region to undertake projects under Atmanirbhar Bharat policy in conjunction with the global OEMs. He is currently working with Manipal Institute of Technology (MIT) and Manipal Academy for Higher Education as adjunct faculty. KW Publishers have published his books titled Probable Sino-Russia Military Pact Implications for India and China's Game Plan in Ladakh Imperatives for India. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Samita, for this introduction. Good afternoon, Chairman sir, co-panelists, and ladies and gentlemen. As General has said, whatever has happened in Pahalgam has stirred the hornet's nest, as we say. Therefore, it becomes much more important for us to focus on the assets and the capabilities of Pakistan armed forces and what we need to do to keep it in check. Just give me a minute to share the presentation. Is the presentation visible, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can.
Okay.
Yes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If I quote Sun Tzu, the art of war is of vital importance to the state. It's a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Now, these words have rung a danger bell for us with what happened in Pahalgam, wherein innocent lives have been lost. It is therefore important for us to analyze Pakistan armed forces and their capability. We will be focusing on the Pakistan national security policy, its armed forces, then the nuisance which is created by ISIS, the dangers of the nuclear arm, as General Sir has pointed out, and what India needs to understand from that. As we all know, the Pakistan armed forces came into being in 1947 post the independence. And therein after, they have always treated India as an arch rival, fighting the wars in 1947, 48, 65, and 71. The drubbing which has been given in 1971 to Pakistan has never been forgotten by them. And that's where the hybrid warfare, what General Sir mentioned, comes into play. Further on, along with the armed forces, the border management also is the biggest requirement. Therefore, the National Guards and the civil armed forces have come into being. Unlike India, where Indian armed forces are apolitical, in Pakistan, in its politics, it's the armed forces which play the major role rather than the politicians. Pak armed forces have seized control time and again in that, and they do act as a deep state, which is referred to as an establishment in Pakistan. And the deep state which acts in the Pakistan itself also is the biggest nuisance for India, because all the ropes of the puppets which sit into the chairs are pulled by the army headquarters. The national security policy of Pakistan is absolutely crystal clear. It was the first time in 2022 they have formulated the policy and it was put in the public domain. As usual, and without any surprise, the national security policy is absolutely crystal clear about the threat it is going to face from the 5 domains covering land, air, sea, cyber, and the space. As I said, it treats India as its arch rival, and keeping in mind our nuclear and a conventional modernization, the national security policy of Pakistan resolves to offer a effective deterrence to uphold the strategic balance in the region. With the eye on India's investment in our disruptive technologies, they have also started upgrading their cybersecurity potential. And as General Sir mentioned, hybrid warfare receives a specific mention in the national security policy, and it adopts whole of nation approach. It's very important for us to note what does it mean and what does it imply. Since 1963, Pakistan signed a Sino-Pakistan agreement with China, and it has developed very close relations. It is working jointly to develop the platforms like JF-17, which is the modern fighter, J-8, and various other platforms. As of 2021, China was the largest foreign supplier of the military equipment to Pakistan, giving it the major arms. They are also working on the joint projects for the joint development of the state-of-the-art weaponry. Further on, Pakistan cooperates with United States, France, UK, Italy, Turkey. Its association with United States and United States requirement in Afghanistan, Pakistan managed to get a non-NATO ally status in 2004, which is the major source of weapon supplies to Pakistan from USA. As of the leadership of the Pakistan Armed Forces go, the Joint Chief of the Staff Committee is the one which controls all operations. General Mirza is currently heading the headquarters. 3 services, General Azim Munir, Navy Admiral Ashraf, and Air Force, Air Marshal Zaid Babar, have their own headquarters and they report to the Joint Chief of Staff Committee. Joint headquarters also has all other supportive branches in the headquarters there. The largest branch of the nation's military and the most professional force as far as the Pakistan is concerned has about 560,000 active personnel. And for a nation of a size of Pakistan, this number is obviously not a small number. The Pak Army also has got its own aviation wing. As far as the equipment is concerned, they do have state-of-the-art equipment, which is multi-nation supplied, USA, China, Germany, United Kingdom, and as we said, Italy also now comes in the fray to give the arms. Small arms of different countries are there, rockets and mines are there. It also has vintage to latest main battle tanks, mostly supplied by China, and numbers are approximately 2,600. And once again, for the size of country of Pakistan, this number is fairly large. It also holds vintage, latest multi-nation supply artillery guns and missile systems of various ranges, which are compatible with the weaponry what India holds. Similarly, they also have state-of-the-art electronic systems like various types of radars supplied by USA, United Kingdom, China, and Sweden, communication systems, ESM and ECCM systems, giving it a formidable capability. On the right-hand side of the screen, you will see a photograph of the Type 89, which is the latest main battle tank, which is being manufactured in Pakistan with the technology transfer agreement with China. It also holds, as any army would do, armored combat vehicles, armored personal carriers, mine-protected vehicles, fire support and engine support vehicles also. Large number of light, medium helicopters are also there, which include ASW, attack helicopters, troop transport, which are from USA, UK, Russia, Italy, and France. China has recently entered into the fray for supplying the helicopter. Onto the right-hand side of the screen, you can see HIT Dragon, which is the indigenous built APC of Pakistan, which is mine-proof and it is state-of-the-art. Army Aviation Wing also has a fixed inventory, which includes approximately 300 transport and the patrol aircraft, mostly supplied by USA and Italy. Once again, for a size of the country of Pakistan, 300 transport aircraft forms a sizable fleet. As General Sir mentioned, Pakistan is going more towards the drones now. So unmanned air vehicles, those include combat and surveillance platforms, mostly indigenous, and some Turkish and China made. We are all aware that Turkish drones have proved very successful in the Armenia war, and Bakhtiar drones are a force to reckon with, and we need to be prepared to tackle them effectively. It also has got wide range of corporate interest. That's a very interesting point. It runs a bank, it has got a foundation, and many civil commercial interest. It is a very dichotomic situation that a professional force of army gets in the corporate and the financial world. And this is the problem which is causing, rather it's a thorn in the flesh for the civilian government, and time and again it intervenes in the political running of the country. Then we from Pakistan Army, if we come down to analyzing Pakistan Navy, the doctrine and the philosophy of the Pakistan Navy is primarily directed towards preventing India repeating the 1971 blockade of Karachi. From 47 till 71, the Pakistan Navy was more like a coast guard. But after 71 debacle, the government accorded more fund for the modernization of the Pakistan Navy, and today it is a modern force. With the money which has been given more, Pakistan has embarked on the acquisition, development, employment, and the deployment of platforms. If you see the current equipment which is being inducted into the Pakistan Navy, there are stealth frigates, there are advanced ships, what we call the landing platforms, and these platforms can also deploy the drones from those platforms, which is the newest concept of war. The aggressive deployment of the submarines is also part of the national security policy as well as the policy of the Pakistan Navy. It is basically to avoid Indian Navy to go near the Karachi port and other ports and for the blockade. Thus, targeting and destroying the enemy platforms is one of their primary role. The mining of the Karachi harbor and other harbors also is within the serious consideration of the Pakistan Navy's policy. Thus, we can see that Pakistan Navy is preparing itself to have a capability which it will give a deterrence against Indian Navy. Currently, Pakistan Navy operates approximately 100 ships, and for once again, for the size of that country, it is a sizable number. It has got a combination of Turkish, American, Chinese ships. Type 04A, which is indicated on the right hand screen, is the latest frigate which has been given to them, and it's a stealth frigate. They are also locally producing the ships, including American Olive Petia class ships, Perry class ships, Turkish designed Babar class ships. Now, these ships are quite capable and they can cause problem for India. French Navy has also transferred the technology for the mine hunters, and these mine hunters are being built in the country. It has also commissioned the Azmat class corvettes, which are state of the art, the China-based design missile boats, which have already been supplied, and now they are built in Pakistan through the technology transfer. Pakistan Navy also has commissioned the Jurrat class missile boats based on the German design, and the two missile boats based on the Turkish design. These missile boats have got state-of-the-art missile. So what we managed to do in 1971, we have to be very cautious about what Pakistan wants to do with the capable missile boats. The Larkana gunboats are also locally produced and being used for the fast patrol squadron of that country. Then, if we go to the submarines, the submarine arm was established in 1964, and it's a major component of the Navy because its primary mission is to conduct clandestine military reconnaissance for intelligence and precision strikes. This is where Indian Navy has to understand what our adversary has and be prepared to counter those. Now, their latest submarine, PNS Hansa, has an air-independent powered Augusta 90 submarine. It is getting ready for induction. Once AIP is inducted, it gives a capability to deeper dive and ability to stay for longer period without detection. As we are well aware, we are still struggling to get AIP. They are also armed with the Exocet and Babar 3 missiles, which can be launched underwater. So this is what we call the second strike capability. This is an important point to note. There are totally 8 submarines in the active service, including the Hashmat class, which is older Augusta class. Then some submarines on the Italian design and locally built midget Cosmos class. Now these midget submarines are also equally a danger because if you're talking about the offshore oil platforms and other assets, midgets can be pretty dangerous for those. The naval operating base for the submarines is now located in Armara, and the submarine training place in PNS Abdos in Karachi. The Navy also has established Fleet Acoustic Research and Classification Center. This is for basically detecting the platforms and classifying them for further necessary action. It has also entered into collaboration with the People's Liberation Army for building Yuan-class AIP-powered submarines. So it is going ahead with building up advanced technology platforms with technology partnership various countries, especially Turkey and China. This particular submarine program is Hangar-class submarine. As far as our INS Arihant is concerned, Pakistan Navy has succeeded in getting the proposal approved from the government for building a nuclear-powered submarine. So they are trying to match the capabilities what we are carrying. General Sir has already said that match to match, we hold the superiority, but it never pays to underestimate an enemy because that's the most dangerous trend. So I'm also not trying to build a fear psychosis in India, but my aim is to familiarize people with what Pakistan holds so that we are well prepared to tackle that particular country. Coming to Pakistan Air Force, it has got state-of-the-art platforms as well as 70,000 active duty personnel. It's the largest air force in the Islamic world in terms of the aircraft fleet. It offers both the umbrella for the protection of its borders as well as anti-aircraft operation, air defense. It has got considerable battle experience, as we saw 1947, 1965, 1971. They are also familiar with the Pulwama attack operation, cross-border operations, experience from the Russian-Afghan war, and Afghan operations after USA has withdrawn from Afghanistan. It also is familiar with the counterinsurgency operations, and it holds a special forces wing also, is equivalent to SEALs or Marines or whatever we may call. They hold various type of fighter aircraft, which are state of the art. Onto the right hand side, you can see JF-17, which is the latest fighter aircraft of China. It holds mix and match of various fighter aircraft like JC-10 of China origin, then JF-17, then sort of a French Mirages of various types, and they hold 149 aircraft in active service of that class. General Dynamics F-16, that's a mainstay, and they have got 75 fighters in active service. The Mirage 3 are like sort of a active bombers, and they have got 80 Mirage 3 in operation. So for a country like Pakistan, this is the good fleet of fighter aircraft as well as the bombers, and we need to be prepared to appreciate the strategy, what it will have, and we have to have our own counter strategy to handle it. They also have Dassault Mirage 5 and Chengdu 7PG. One is a primary variant, which is a two-seat trainer, and other is the operational conversion trainer. So they are fully equipped to train their own troops into the advanced battle operations also. They have special mission aircraft, that is ADI, which is what we call the AEW platform. They have got 6 in number of them. They have got Shanxi Y8, Dassault Falcon 20. We have utilized Embraer. Similarly, they have utilized Dassault Falcon 20 as the electronic warfare aircraft. Transport aircraft, which is the basic necessity, they hold C-130 as we hold 130Js. They have Harbin Y-12. They are operated the light utility helicopters, Gulfstream 5, and Embraer Phenom 100. Cessna Citations are also there. They also have aerial refueling Ilyushin IL-78 platforms. They have upgraded them, so they are fully operational. And they do have various trainer aircraft to train their own troops. Onto the right-hand side of the screen, you will see IL-78, which is the refueling aircraft, which also can be converted to the troop transporter by removing the tanks from its hold. Helicopters, they do have Augusta Western AW139, which is one of the potent helicopters in the world. We ourselves operate Mi-17. We know the capabilities of those helicopters. They also operate Mi-17s, and they are in the search and rescue mode and other operations. They have various air defense systems like MBD Espada, which is state-of-the-art, Protil, HQ-9B, China supplied, and AML HE-620, which is a modified version. So they are well equipped with the helicopters as well as the air defense systems against any attacks coming to their country. We can see AW139 on the screen. As I said earlier, Pakistan also going towards the UAVs. They are well equipped to operate various kinds of UAVs. There is a Shapar, there are Bhaktiyar, and TB2s also, which are the most rather capable drones which played a decisive role in the Armenia war. Winglong 2, which is the Chinese-made UAV, is also available with them. They also have many other small and big UAVs, and they are being used in the operational role for reconnaissance, surveillance, delivery of logistics, electronic warfare, etc. So we also need to be prepared for acting UAVs. So,
Commander Deshmukh, please try to conclude now.
Yeah. Another 5 minutes. Then we do have Pakistan Coast Guard, Pakistan Maritime Security Agency, and the Civil Armed Forces also. So they complement the roles of the 3 armed forces. Pakistan Rangers is one of the biggest problem what we have. They play a role on our borders, and various skirmishes are the proof of their capabilities. This is the biggest thing which I wanted to focus upon. Inter-service intelligence may be an intelligence arm, but it plays a major role in creating the problems. What happened in Pahalgam, we know who is behind that. So it is extremely important for us to understand what ISI is and what ISI does and what are its capabilities. It's one of the most important facets in India's strategies toward tackling. It also has got a nuclear arm. General Sir has already pointed out the nuclear tactical use. They also have got other nuclear heads which can be fitted onto the missiles. So finally, we have to understand that Pakistan Armed Forces, which comprise of the three main arms supported by other security arms, are sizably big. They have got equipment which can match. Match means in capability wise, not numbers wise or not superiority wise. Aircraft, naval forces, missile systems, nuclear weapons, and ISI is one of the most potent weapons Pakistan Armed Forces hold. Finally, when the Pakistan Armed Forces are a force to reckon with, and any complacency, we will pay for it. So once again, let me end by quoting Sun Tzu. If we know the enemy, we should not fear. If we know ourselves but not the enemy, every enemy will have a price to pay. But if we don't know the enemy or our capability, we will lose every battle. Sun Tzu has told us what we need to do, and we will do it. Jai Hind. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for the excellent talk. I think you have covered practically everything from the Pakistan's gray zone capabilities as well as its military capabilities. The point for all the researchers to note here is it's very important to understand your enemy and to know the capabilities of your enemy, and thereafter plan your strategy. And there cannot be any room for complacency. Thank you very much, sir, for a very, very excellent talk. Now, our next speaker is Dr. Ashish Shukla. He will be speaking to us on understanding the Pakistan Army, Islamization, corporate interest, and politics. I will request Samida to kindly introduce the speaker.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Ashish Shukla is Associate Fellow at Manohar Parrikar Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis, New Delhi. Prior to joining MP-IDSA, Dr. Shukla was associated with MIT University, Noida, where he taught courses in defense and strategic studies. He has also been a research fellow at Indian Council of World Affairs, ICWA, New Delhi, during March 2017 to January 2021. Dr. Shukla has taught courses on India-Pakistan relations to mid-level officers at the Border Security Force BSF Academy, Kanpur, Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh. Dr. Shukla received his MPhil and PhD from the School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi. His interest in research includes South Asian affairs, regional security in South Asia, Afghanistan-Pak dynamics, international political and security-related developments in Pakistan. He has a number of publications to his credit, including 2 single-handed authored books, 1 edited book, several chapters in edited books, and journal articles. Thank you, sir. We welcome you.
Thank you, Samida. Thank you, General Kochhar. I hope I am audible.
Yes, very much so.
Okay, it's a very timely conference, although it was planned at a time when negative developments were not there. But anyway, things have changed a lot. So what I'm planning to do for the next 15-20 minutes to just try to give a glimpse of Pakistan Army. Most of the factual details have already been provided, so I will not go into that kind of repetition or details. So, okay, so if we look at Pakistan Army as an institution, Army is the most organized, powerful, and influential institution in Pakistan. It has a cohesive and task-oriented profile with a strong esprit de corps. It looks at itself as a breed apart and proclaims to protect not only the territorial frontiers of the state, but also the very ideology of Pakistan. And it is very obsessed with India and the threat, so-called threat, posed by it to the very existence of Pakistan. That's how they perceive India. It therefore exercises effective control over Pakistan's India policy. And even after more than, I think, 7.5 decades, the dominant national security discourse in Pakistan is India-centric. Pakistan Army has been perpetuating this narrative through various means and mechanisms with a view to make it a permanent feature of Pakistan's foreign policy. So far, it has been successful in linking Pakistan's nuclear policy and Pakistan's Afghanistan policy with the so-called India threat. Some of the functions of the Pakistan Army appear to be in direct conflict with the state, resulting in a peculiar relationship between the state and its strongest institution. I remember reading a Chatham House report long back, I think about 10 years ago or something. So that Chatham House report was suggesting that Pakistan Army is like a creeper growing on a rotten tree, right? And until it becomes difficult to say which is holding up which. As we are aware, the incumbent Chief of Army Staff, General Asim Munir, while interacting with the overseas Pakistanis in Islamabad very recently, before this incident happened, so he referred to the two-nation theory. He emphasized upon the points that were actually raised by Jinnah in his presidential address of Muslim League's Lahore session back in 1940. In a very aggressive tone, he exhorted to pass on the history of Pakistan's emergence to the next generation. He was speaking to overseas Pakistanis when he was saying this. This was nothing but an oft-repeated point that Pakistan Army considers itself as the guardian of the Pakistani state. It deeply distrusts civilian leadership's capability to get the things right, get the things done in a proper manner without their active or passive support. And it does not want civilian leaders to interfere in the internal organizational matters and service affairs on the pretext that such an interference would compromise the autonomy of the institution. There are considered, these are considered, as critical components that determine the very nature of civil-military relations in Pakistan. Army controls the grand national narrative and doesn't allow any other stakeholder to introduce such changes in the grand national narrative that could have the potential to weaken Army's grip over it. Many analysts, including myself, are of the view that Pakistan Army is the only well-founded political party in Pakistan which never directly contests elections but remains in power all the time, whether from the front or behind the civilian veil. I remember, Suja Nawaz in his book Cross Sword claims that a small group of some 150 officers of general rank and perhaps an even smaller group of some 20 corps commanders and principal staff officers at GHQ effectively controlling the political destiny of Pakistan. I'm sure everyone knows what Stephen Cohen used to say about Pakistan Army. Let me repeat it. He often argued that there are armies that guard their nation's borders. There are those that are concerned with protecting their own position in society, and there are those that defend a cause or an idea. Pakistan Army does all three, right? There is another journalist in Pakistan who is known as Wajahat S. Khan, and he argues that Pakistan Army is a think tank, a spy network, and a foreign office rolled into one. Uh, Pakistan Army hates politicians in Pakistan to the core and is quite conscious about its societal image. None of the Pakistani prime ministers have been able to complete full 5-year tenure in office. They were all removed from power as per the whims and fancies of the army. With its deep involvement in the political system, it has learned that ruling the country directly had certain unavoidable drawbacks. All the military rulers from Ayub Khan to General Musharraf uh, dented the societal image of the institution in one way or the other, which took a long time for army to actually repair. They all became quite unpopular at the end of their tenures, and that's why in post-Musharraf period, army changed its tactics. It no longer seeks to run the country directly by imposing martial law and suspending the constitution. Instead, it has resorted to what we say the micromanagement of politics in Pakistan. First it popped up Imran Khan against the Bhutto, Jardari, and Sharifs, and then through him actually cheated the people of Pakistan with a catchphrase which was like Naya Pakistan. So Imran promised Naya Pakistan to Pakistani people, but it is no secret that there was nothing new in Imran Khan's Naya Pakistan. And it is also no secret how it used Panama Gate against Nawaz Sharif and through a judicial coup removed him from power. This paved the way for Imran Khan assuming office in 2018 with the solid backing from powers that be. Later, we all know the differences arose between Army Chief Qamar Javed Bajwa and Imran Khan that led to his downfall in April 2022. Bajwa was succeeded by Asim Munir, who resorted to, micromanaging everything from politics, internal security to foreign policy. The recent legal and constitutional changes that have taken place in Pakistan are actually a case in point. In July 2024, not long before, a 13-member Supreme Court bench declared Imran Khan's PTI to be eligible for the reserved seats in National Assembly and provincial assemblies. And I think Justice Mansoor Ali Shah was part of the 8-5 majority decision. In order to deny him the position of next Chief Justice, security establishment pushed for 26th constitutional amendment in the constitution in Pakistan. It was the time when both Imran Khan and his wife Bushra Bibi were in jail on charges of corruption. PTI was engaging the security establishment to get them out of prison, and it is believed that as part of a deal, PTI did not oppose the move strongly in the parliament, and both the houses of parliament passed the amendment bill on 20 and 21st October 2024. This was soon followed by Bushra Bibi's release on bail on 23rd of October 2024. Now, emboldened by this, the security establishment got some more concessions on November 4, 2024, when several key legislations were bulldozed through Parliament without any debate. I think within one and a half hour, these bills were passed. These laws were made. Both the houses passed 6 bills in less than an hour, which allowed the government to ensure a favorable balance in higher judiciary. Through these changes, the number of judges in Supreme Court were increased to 34 from 17, and in Islamabad High Court, the number was increased to 12 from 9. And besides, tenures of the 3 services chiefs were also increased from 3 to 5 years. So that is very, very important development. This was done precisely to ensure continuity of General Asim Munir as Army Chief till November 27. Now, PTI did not make any strong objection to the move in hope of getting Imran Khan released. However, they did not realize that this might result in an unending wait for his release. Now, it seems that the government as well as the security establishment got what they were looking for. Jan Asim Munir, with a secure term till November 27, appears more confident and powerful as far as Pakistan's polity is concerned. Some in Pakistan even admit that he is one of the most powerful army chiefs of the country. Now, on the point of Islamization, I would like to throw some light. There cannot be any doubt that an institution in most respect uh, could be said that is the reflection of the very society in which it exists. And it is deeply affected by the ideas, norms, and values that are prevalent in the society at any given point of time. I remember reading somewhere when Lieutenant General Asad Durrani, who used to be DGISI at some point of time, so he argued that the role of Islam in Pakistan Army is no different than the rest of the country. Thus, whatever happens in the larger Pakistani society affects the Pakistan Army as well. Islam has always been an integral part of the social fabric and the ideology of Pakistan. Since the nation was created in the name of Islam, it could neither disassociate nor reduce its role and influence in the society and state institutions. Pakistani leaders, both civilian and military, used religious sentiments as an instrument to strengthen the very identity of Pakistan and attain legitimacy for their rule. Starting from Jinnah to Shehbaz Sharif and General Ayub Khan to General Asim Munir, they all invoked Islam to gain, some sort of legitimacy in the society. General Ziaul Haq is notoriously known for his Islamization program. Many claim that his legacy is still very much there in Pakistan Army. However, there are also others who differ and argue that post-Jia, there were some attempts which Pakistan Army made to reduce Islamic elements within the institutions. Nobody knows the exact results, but there are people who say that at least top brass appears to be, different from the lower, those who work at the lower, strata. Now, another point which I was supposed to take on was corporate interest of the military in Pakistan. You know, when we talk about interest, at the individual level, we all know an interest is something which one desires to have. Indeed, it is an objective or goal which one wants to achieve. At the institutional level, an interest or a set of interests are the aims and objectives that the institution collectively wants to accomplish. I remember reading something from Akil Shah, who is a Pakistani scholar who has written extensively on Pakistan Army. He is of the view that, like all other professional entities, Pakistan Army is a corporate entity with identifiable ideas, distinct interests, and also a specific organizational goals that clearly separate and distinguish it from politicians and sometimes even from the society at large. Then another scholar which I would like to refer here is Professor Rizvi, Professor Hassan Askari Rizvi, who believes that exercising supreme political power is not the primary consideration of army in Pakistan. Instead, it is interested in the protection and advancement of its professional and corporate interests. Then I remember reading something from Daniel Murky, who almost echoed, Rizvi's argument on the issue, and he said that, the primary purpose of the military is to advance and defend its institutional interest. He also adds that these interests are often but not always consistent with a broader national interest of Pakistan. Then another Pakistani scholar I would like to refer here is Professor Ishtiaq Ahmed, and I believe he was also part of the conference. I'm not sure whether he joined the discussion or not. So Professor Ahmed, underlines three key interests which Pakistan Army jealously protects at any cost. One is the national security. Second one is political clout and institutional autonomy, and the last one is the higher defense budget with unscrutinized corporate pursuits of the institution. Let me also discuss 6 points which was raised by Hassan Askari Rizvi regarding corporate interest of the Pakistan's army, because of which it sometimes intervenes in Pakistani politics. So he also mentions control over national security issues, including Pakistan's India policy, Afghanistan policy, nuclear policy, then control over policy of overseas weapons and equipment procurement, then military autonomy, and no civilian scrutiny and unilateral cut in the defense expenditure, no reduction in perks and privileges, and socio-political stability, which is considered crucial for sustaining a professional military. Uh, it would be unfair if I don't, refer Aisha Siddiqa. Aisha Siddiqa in her military ink suggests that army's penetration into the society and economy establishes its hegemonic control over the very state. Military, as we all know, is the biggest business conglomerate in Pakistan, and most of the scholars focus on Pakistan's military's four foundations, namely the Fauzi Foundation, the Army Welfare Trust, Shaheen Foundations, and Baharia Foundation. Initially, these foundations were intended to take care of pension and employment opportunities of retired personnel, but the organization greatly expanded their activities under Ziaul Haq's regime, and it became quite influential investor in national enterprises over the years. At present, these subsidiaries are involved in almost all important sectors of Pakistani economy, including agriculture, banking, education, energy, health, insurance, media, power generation, electricity, of course, real estate, then software, and many more. You can just name it, and I believe that Pakistan Army will be involved in it. And then again, to refer to Aisha Siddiqa, Pakistan's military's internal economy is fairly decentralized and operates at three distinct levels. One is direct involvement, then through individuals, and then through subsidiaries. And uh, in three segments of economy, notably agriculture, manufacturing, and the services sector. Since both serving and retired military personnel receive benefits, they naturally defend the commercial activities of the Fauji Foundation and many other foundations, and also all the other military-run business groups. Now, I remember when I was visiting Pakistan long back, I think in 2013 December, so I met General Humayun Khan Bangash and met several military officers, retired, of course, retired, and also one of the retired chief of army staffs at that point of time. So I remember General Bangash was telling me that army is involved in such activities because the nation is not in a position to take care of, or look after the welfare of more than 1 billion retired Pakistani armed force personnel. The money earned through these foundations, he was telling me that is used to run hospitals, schools, and other welfare activities for the military personnel and their families. Besides, the money is also given to families of martyrs. Then I also remember during General Jahangir Karamat's meeting, he actually pointed out that the welfare activities in which army is involved is less known. He went on to provide details of the kind of welfare work in which the foundation was involved or is involved. The point is that all said and done, Pakistan military or the army controls the destiny of Pakistan. It is they uh, who have actually hijacked the very state of Pakistan, and it is they who are taking key decisions. So we all remember that before this Pahalgam incident happened, it was General Asim Munir who spoke about certain issues. I referred to one, he was the one who referred there on two nation theory. Then he talked about Balochistan, where I remember he's saying that ये 1500 लोग ये 1500 बंदे क्या समझते हैं कि ये पाकिस्तान से बलूचिस्तान ले लेंगे, वो कह रहे थे कि एंड मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग ही वाज वेरी एग्रेसिव, बहुत गुस्से में थे वो, मुझे लग रहा था कि जैसे वो अपने ट्रूप्स को एड्रेस कर रहे हो. एंड देन he also went on to invoke Kashmir issue, and then he termed it as jugular vein, which is also not new thing. Jinnah used to say that Kashmir is jugular vein, and we are not going to compromise on that. So I think we need to be very careful in analyzing the behavior of Pakistan Army these days. As I said, that Munir is there to stay till 2027, and given the history, we all know that getting one extension is not something which is not possible. If Munir gets one extension, he will be there till 32, I think 2032. So he is there to stay. He is in full control, and he is calling the shots, and he is micromanaging everything. So whatever we see today happening in India, the Pahalgam incident, everybody knows the perpetrators. Whatever Pakistan says, we all know that it is they who have actually directly actually planned this incident, and it was planned in a manner, I remember I
Dr.
followed
Ashish, please try to. Hmm.
Pakistan development quite closely. So I remember BLA had conducted an operation Herof, in which they had actually controlled the national highways that were connecting Pakistan to Balochistan for about more than 12 hours. And they had also captured a Bela camp for about 20 hours. And during that operation, they had used suicide bombing. One was
Dr. Ashish,
lady suicide bomber, which had
Dr. Ashish, can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you.
Okay, please try to conclude.
Please, I'm concluding, sir. So
Okay.
what I am trying to say that Pakistanis accused us either directly or indirectly for involvement in those activities, and there are many who believe that as a response or as a tit for tat move, they did something very terrible in Pahalgam, and which has created the kind of situation in which we are in. And I'm sure that they will receive a proper response from both the armed forces of India and the political dispensation which is there. With these words, I would like to end here. Thank you very much. And if there's any question, I will be happy to take that. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Ashish. We have a question answer session at the end of this dialogue, after all speakers are over.
Okay.
First of all, thank you for a wonderful talk on Pakistan Islamization, corporate dress and politics. It's almost $20 billion worth of industry in terms of land and in terms of their assets, which the Pakistan Army controls, and it's giving them a revenue of $500 million every year. So you can see that Pakistan may not be doing well economically, but the Pakistan Army is doing very well commercially. And it also, I'm given to understand, contributes to the economy of Pakistan, as the Pakistani journalists keep on saying. So it was a wonderful talk, and I think the viewers and the research scholars would have actually got the money's worth, and learning new facets about Pakistan. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to our third speaker, Dr. Divya Malhotra. She's going to speak on Pakistan's military propaganda factory. So, Samida, over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Dr. Divya Malhotra is a researcher with Center for National Security Studies, Bangalore, and adjunct faculty with Department of Public Policy, Mount Carmel College, Bangalore. She is an economist by training and holds a PhD in International Relations from JNU, New Delhi. She has been associated with National Security Advisory Board, Delhi, and Rashtriya Raksha University, Gujarat. And her key areas of interest include intersectionality of geoeconomics and politics in West Asia and Afghan-Pakistan region. Thank you, ma'am. We welcome you.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful to Indic Researchers for giving me this opportunity. I have a PowerPoint to present, so I'll just take a second to share my screen. Yeah. Is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So good afternoon. The topic of my presentation is also mentioned is ISPR, Inter-Services Public Relations. I think it's a lesser known aspect of the Pakistan military's war machinery. And I'll be discussing the discrete propaganda that is run by them. And the idea behind the discussion is how ISPR shapes the idea of Pakistan, and the conference itself discusses the idea of Pakistan. And it has transgressed a lot from how Jinnah had envisioned it and where it has reached now. And I start with this quote that the most powerful person in the world is a storyteller who sets the vision, the values, and the agenda of an entire generation. And although this quote is by Steve Jobs, it's also relevant to the role that ISPR has been playing and the role that it plays in shaping the idea of Pakistan. So ISPR is basically a PR and a media wing of the Pakistan Armed Forces. It was founded in 1949 May under Colonel Shahbaz Khan. Started as a modest press release cell for the armed forces, and now it has evolved into a very sophisticated propaganda and perception management body. And in this presentation, of course, I mentioned it was established in 49, and from 49 to 90s, it did play a very subtle role. Of course, it was very active during the wars, particularly in the Urdu press and media. But then after 1990s, its role started to expand significantly. I have written a paper on this in the Journal of Defense Studies, which is published by MP-IDSA, and I've given some data on how the budget of the army had expanded, and it also went into ISPR, but I'll not get into the numbers here. Originally aimed at disseminating military news, ISPR now covers very broad social, political, economic issues as well. And when I talk about ISPR's publications and print media, I'll discuss that. Of course, ICT, information communication technology, had played a very important role in revolutionizing the mandate of ISPR in 1990s and thereafter. And overall, it shapes the public perception internally. And of course, it also works along with ISI as far as the psychops are concerned. Talking about the organizational structure, generally it is headed by a 3-star general and major general. Currently, it is under Major General Sharif Chaudhry, who is now a Lieutenant General. The DG-ISPR reports to the Army Chief, and it comes under a Joint Chief of Staff Secretariat for organizational purposes. It does collaborate with ISI for promoting the int-based narrative management, and that's why I feel when we talk about the idea of Pakistan, and a lot of scholars in this panel itself have also discussed about ISI, the role that organizations play there. And I think the previous speaker had also mentioned rightly that Pak Army is not just an army. It's a think tank, it's a spy organization, and there are a lot of subsidiary organizations which work within the ambit of the army, to promote this goal. So talking about ISPR strategic objectives in propaganda, see, I feel we can look at it as a soft power body of the Pak Armed Forces. It does target the hearts and minds of the Pakistani people, and of course, it does play a complementary role in ISI, not obviously in terms of the physical or the ground operations, but in information operations and 5G wars, 5G war or the hybrid and non-kinetic war that the chair had also mentioned in the beginning. Internal legitimacy is a very important goal because there is a constant civil-military tussle, as has also been addressed by the previous speaker. And in that sense, the publications of ISPR, its attempts to control the narrative of electronic media and print media has been very important. Cyber warfare, particularly after 90s and now after 2012, and I'll talk about the leadership change in ISPR. So they have been conducting very active cyber ops against India. ISPR, just like Pakistan Army, is very India-centric. Ashish sir rightly mentioned that the obsession with India that they have also reflects in this organization. They've also been trying to undermine India's international standing and reputation through targeted propaganda, and a lot of times, in fact, some of you, if you're following this morning in New York, this photo has been going viral that how there are trucks and vehicles going around in the New York City carrying photos of how Kashmir needs to be freed of India. So, of course, the embassy there coordinates it, but the ideas are flowing from ISPR because it essentially deals with ideas. Public perception management, of course, shaping public opinion in favor of the army and the military policies, and the control of the flow of information. So the idea of Pakistan, when they're trying to shape, has been done over a period of time, very subconsciously in a very organic manner. You cannot, convince the public to think. And as has been mentioned, there are a lot of events that have happened, the change of leadership, and it got very heated when Imran Khan got into a tussle with the army. Initially, he was in favor, and then he fell apart. So if you observe the ISPR website, if you follow the literature that they release every month and also on their website, it works very closely with how the army thinks. And across the events, you will see how they try to manage that. Now, talking about the media evolution of ISPR, see, post 1990, the military enhanced ISPR's budget, and it was in tandem with the budget that was for the army. It was also the era when Nawaz Sharif was there, followed by Bhutto, and then again Nawaz Sharif, and then the military coup brought General Musharraf. And it was during this decade that there was a focus on information technology revolution as such, and how the same changes can also be imbibed within the army. So in that sense, ISPR started to change, and that reflected in the kind of dramas, the serials, the documentaries that they had started to produce. And I'll show some photos in subsequent slides. So in order to create a positive narrative to shape the public opinion, they aimed at mass influence weapons. And that also meant running, not just the documentaries, but also getting some kind of control over the print media, the editorials that are published in the major English newspapers and not just Urdu newspapers, also FM and the radio. Initial focus was on family dramas, and if you go through some of them, a lot of them are available on YouTube. They have evolved now towards very sophisticated documentaries and songs, which focus on the youth, which have a youth appeal. And of course, varied content that I will discuss. See, this is what the ISPR website looks like now. So they have documentaries, they have dramas, they have songs, they also have mobile games. Because now, essentially, they are looking at targeting. They also have a souvenir shop from where you can get these souvenirs. And these are some photos. The Karakoram Highway here and Pakistan Army Legacy of Peacekeeping, both on the right, are documentaries that they've, very good in terms of cinematography, appeal to the youngsters. And of course, then they have their own Spotify channel and they create these songs. Every time there's something major that happens with India, they leave no opportunity and they create very popular content. So since 1990s, 1992 particularly, they have engaged in various media forms to promote a specific image, a very pro-military image. Some of the dramas that I mentioned that are popular at that time, Khajur Mein Atka Sunehre Din, they have a very family-oriented appeal, but very subconsciously they discuss the life in army, the sacrifices they make, and how army's interests are essentially linked with national interests. They have an Islamic appeal, but like Ashish sir said, really in case of Pakistan, the institutional. So the idea is to create an idea of supremacy of army in Pakistan. And then, of course, there were some dramas that I'll show you came about in 2012 and 14. But then in 2019, one of the most famous channels in Pakistan, Hum TV, created this series called Aide Wafa. Again, very popular actors. It was a very high budget serial. And then that was seen as a kind of a resurgence of, popular youths. And all of these, like I said, are available on YouTube. So documentaries and songs are obviously there, and the central idea is always to portray army in a very glorified manner. And see, this one was there in 2007. All our ISPR productions produced by ISPR, funded by ISPR, available on PTV. Again, another one, Sipahi, and they're quite famous one, but you will see a shift. 2019 onwards, the kind of cinematography they've used has changed, obviously much more well budgeted. 2016, this one again was based on the life of a female fighter, Air Force fighter. And then this is the one I was talking about in 2019. And 2021, again, this one, which talks about the life of female officers in the Pakistan Army, and it very interestingly shows how these women, are compliant to Islam. They are also devoted women, and at the same time, they are working for the country. So again, the idea was to promote all these ideas together. And this one particularly was on the 1971 war. And what they've tried to show is the West Pakistan, former West Pakistan's narrative on how India had manipulated the elements in East Pakistan. So essentially, we know 1971 war led to creation of Bangladesh out of East Pakistan, but they've tried their best to portray an alternate side of particularly the Pakistani perception of 71 war. Now, likewise, ISPR also has a lot of FN, radio channels, which have been a big source of controversy. They don't have proper authorization in terms of papers, but of course, they cannot be running without, the knowledge of the top bosses. And most of the programs, again, are ISPR backed songs, the documentaries that they produce. And of course, like the previous speaker and others have talked, the commercial interests. So all the advertisements are Fauji Foundation or Bharia Foundation. So again, it's another. Now, this question was raised by Asma Jangir, that how many within Pakistan civil society who have been questioning that how ISPR is suppressing critical journalism, how they frame any form of dissent as anti-national. And one example is this renowned journalist, Amir Mateen, who was actually fired because he questioned ISPR's role and intervention in print media. And we had basically called out how ISPR controls and forces and harasses journalists. Also, and more particularly when it comes to coverage of what is happening in Balochistan or in KP. So all of those issues, they are controlled, not just in ISPR or their publications, but also in other well-known newspapers like the News International. Dawn is still believed to have a moderate policy. Some of their editorials may appear to be slightly critical, but then by and large, there is very little scope of dissent. So print media since 1948, Hilal has been the official publication of Pakistan Armed Forces, and it covers a wide range of subjects. Initially, it was very military-centric, but now it does cover politics, it covers foreign policy, it now covers contemporary issues like climate change as well, reflecting the military's impact on domestic narratives. And say one interesting point is they generally look for non-Pakistani Anglo-Saxon scholars, American Pakistanis, British Pakistanis to write for them because it gives them a sense of validity, of legitimacy or validation to what they're saying. And just to give you a glimpse, this is from their latest edition. And this is what it looks like. They have a version in Urdu, they have one in English, they have Hilal Her for women, they have for kids. And then they have a blog section as well where youngsters can also write, and they have special reports. So they cover everything. And these are some glimpses from the editorials that they've been publishing over the last 1 year. Kashmir, RSS. Again, women-centric to appeal to women, climate catastrophe. And again, they'll always show our army comes forward, even in disaster situations, to help. Now, this is from the Hilal Kids magazine. And again, very very military-centric discourse. The language is mellowed down to appeal to youngsters. See, Defense and Marty's Day, a teenager's view, so they do attract blog writings from youngsters as well. Again, India and Israel, 71 war, 65 war, and these are very recent. So they make it a point that most of their coverages, keep army, and of course, there are a lot of, which are very Islam-centric as well. So the central agenda is very clear. So just like I said, content analysis, focus centrally on military activities. They do cover political developments, and most interesting, you can see how they were covering when there were protests before Shahbaz Sharif took over, when Imran Khan was there, and the shift was very interesting over months. India-centric, as expected, connection between military and society. They try to build a very positive connection between the military and society, trying to show that both are symbiotic and how military serves the interests of the larger public and aligning civilian discourse with military narratives. I'll quickly touch upon the internship program, the youth, because there are a lot of youngsters, I think, who have joined here also. And similarly, young graduates in Pakistan get absorbed by ISPR as interns. Some of them are paid, the young ones are not. But then it gives them an opportunity to work very close with the establishment. So a lot of their activities are, again, from what has been documented, cyber propaganda, particularly against India. Programs details are generally shared through informal channels, but a lot of these interns are very active on LinkedIn. Recruitment process is very opaque. And again, working on military narratives. See, from what I have personally studied for a period of 6 months when I was publishing this paper, most of their interns were from National Defense University, which is in Islamabad. And they do take a lot of interns, female interns from Fatima Jinnah Women University as well, which is in Pindi. And I'll show you one interesting advertisement that they put in Fatima Jinnah Women University's placement cell. So nobody really knows how they recruit because up until 2018, there was no open recruitment. It was only in 18 and 19 that an open advertisement was put, a call for interns. And the first documented proof is a 2012 batch intern at ISPR who had put this blog, very detailed one, on his internship. And in fact, the same year when I was in Pakistan, that was the time I got to know that ISPR runs any such program, because in popular perception and popular discourse, we only hear about ISI, not ISPR. But then we got to know because some of those interns were also attending the conference. Now, as far as honey trapping is concerned, every time we discuss espionage, obviously we only talk about ISI, but I think that is where we're missing the point, because ISPR is, of course, playing a very important role in honey trapping. They recruit a lot of youngsters who have the right skill set. They train individuals to pose as women. There is an interconnection between ISPR and intelligence, like I mentioned, but of course, complementary role in information ops. And of course, they pose a very important tactical threat to India's security. And until we start looking at ISPR in detail, I think our knowledge or our focus on ISPR in the academic community, and because they are young researchers here, they should start looking at ISPR as well, follow their activities and the literature that they publish. And this is the advertisement that I was talking about on the website of Fatima Jinnah University 2019. They're looking for a social media specialist, female only, military-owned media house, obviously is ISPR. And the work they've highlighted to attract and to interact with targeted virtual communities and network users. So it was, almost, reading between the lines and pretty obvious that what they're looking for and the skill set that they've highlighted. Likewise, they do it through a lot of college placement cells. Also, ISPR recruits youngsters through professors who have worked with ISPR and now are are working now in universities. Turning point in organizational leadership was 2012, and like the previous speaker also mentioned, there was also a period in Pakistan Army and Armed Forces time when they had to do some image damage control, of their image. And now Osama bin Laden had been caught. Pakistan military was being questioned everywhere, including internally. And General Asim Bajwa, that time Major General, he was the DG ISPR, and he was also known as the Army's media czar. And he decided that, media needs to play a very important role in rebuilding the image of the army. And it was this time that even ISPR's publications, ISPR's website, ISPR's dramas and documentaries underwent a major shift. And likewise, under the next DG, Major General Asif Ghafoor at that time, he pushed for the youth internship program, very open photography and promotion of the internship program. And now you're at a point, if you just Google ISPR internship program, you will see the latest program is running, when it's ending, and when the next one is starting. So there's no secrecy about it anymore. And I'll just conclude by saying that, like Chair General Kochhar, in the beginning spoke about hybrid and non-kinetic warfare, and we talk about 5G warfare. It is very important that besides discussing the Pakistan military capabilities and ISI, we also focus on ISPR because anti-state propaganda, the role of social media in indoctrinating youngsters and indoctrinating masses in general is very important in this era. So ISPR, like I said, Ghafoor had emphasized on strategic communication, and they're doing it in a very structured way. It's not very abstract, it's very structured. However, we do have limited information on it. The public perception is very strong. There are elements who are critical, but then by and large, they're trying, if you look at the literature and their control over the media, they're very proactively trying to change it. They also focus on contemporary conflicts, their idea of jihad, what is happening in Afghanistan, Af-Pak border. All their publications give a very interesting glimpse into how subconsciously they try to target. And social media, of course, is very important. So the idea of Pakistan, I conclude, not just ISI, not just Pak Army, we also, youngsters who are here today, also can look at ISPR. And I'll be happy to take any questions or comments in the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Divya. And a very important aspect of strategic communication you actually brought up, because this is one area where we lack in the Indian Army, or we lack in the country itself, I would say that, because we don't have this kind of capability which the Pakistanis have. And I think they are decades ahead of us because they started much earlier on this. And they have established norms and systems in the place as far as ISPR is concerned. And that is why they're able to shape the narratives. And especially in Jammu and Kashmir. Because what I have seen is how the radicalization is taking place in the state. And now it's, of course, much low. At one point of time, it was very high, and ISPR had a big role to play. So it was a wonderful topic to select, and I think the researchers are going to be benefited by your exposure. Thank you very much. Now we'll have the last speaker of the day, not of the day, but of the session, I would say that. Dr. Abhinav Pandya, I have known him. He's a wonderful speaker, and he's going to speak to us on soldiers without uniform. And I think this is the most important aspect what we are dealing today, waging jihad with Jaish-e Mohammad and Lashkar-e-Taiba. I don't think we can get out of these two outfits so very easily. And I'm sure Dr. Abhinav Pandya is going to help us in understanding how a counter strategy can be made by us to counter these terrorist organizations, because they have the support of the Pakistan establishment. Samida, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Abhinav Pandya is the founder, director, and CEO of Usanas Foundation, India-based and foreign policy. As a CEO, he has curated 3 international and foreign policy conferences titled Maharana Pratap Annual 2023 and 2024. Is a policy analyst specializing in counter Indian foreign policy and Afghanistan-Pakistan geopolitics. He completed his doctoral in Kashmir.
Some problem with audio. Problem with the audio.
I'm sorry, sir. Is it better now?
Yeah. You can close your video, I think, then it will become better.
All right. Hello. Is it better now, sir?
Yeah, better.
All right. I'll start over again. Dr. Founder, Director, CEO of Usanas Foundation, India-based security and foreign policy think tank. As a CEO, he has curated national security and foreign policy conference. Geopolitics and 2024. He is a policy analyst specializing in counter-terrorism, Indian foreign policy, and Afghanistan-Pakistan geopolitics. He completed his doctorate from the Jindal School of International Affairs, OP Jindal Global University. He has authored 3 books: Inside the Terrifying World of Jaish-e Mohammad, Terror Financing in Kashmir and Radicalization in India, and Exploration. In the past, he has advised the Governor of Jammu and Kashmir on security issues during the critical Article 370 was revoked. Over to you, sir.
Should I start?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
Okay. Thank you very much, General Kochhar, and thanks Indic Researchers Forum for inviting me. So I'm going to speak about the main terror groups that are operating in Kashmir. So there are 3 terror groups mainly, which are created by Pakistan. That's Hizbul Mujahideen, Lashkar-e-Taiba, and Jaish-e Mohammed. And while understanding the way terror groups operate in Kashmir, I guess we need to understand the fact that Pakistan has always experimented with their strategy and tactics when it comes to the terror groups. Back in 1989-90, when you had groups like JKLF and NLF, they had motivations from Islamic extremism, but they had elements of Kashmiria too. But once Pakistan realized that the militancy is on its way, and they wanted to strengthen it, and they had the right infrastructure out there in terms of sentiments, they thought that now it's advisable to get rid of the local terror groups like JKLF and NLF and bring in more radicalized groups like Hizbul Mujahideen. So they created Hizbul Mujahideen, which is more like a militant arm of Jamaat-e Islami, which is again an Islamist group, an extremist group, which is like a South Asian cousin of Muslim Brotherhood. And Jamaat-e Islami believes in the ideology of Maulana Maududi. That's political Islam. We're not getting into it because the discussion doesn't focus on theology. So Hizbul Mujahideen is primarily a group which is constituted by the locals. As the militancy started progressing in Kashmir, Pakistan realized that they needed groups which are more lethal in terms of their combat skills, and they wanted stronger control over them. So that could be possible only by bringing in more foreign terrorists. So they decided to bring in initially the guys from the Harkat network. So primarily Harkat network is referred to the boys from those Devbandi terror infrastructure in Pakistan. So back in 1979, when the terrorism started in its modern phase with the Russian invasion of Afghanistan, the Harkat groups were the first organizations to be formed in Pakistan with the help of CIA. CIA was funding those mujahideens, and those groups include Harkatul Jihad al-Islami. Later, many splinter groups came up from the main group, and they included groups like Harkatul Mujahideen, Harkatul Ansar, etc. And there were prominent jihadist figures like Maulana Fazlur Rahman Khalil and boys like Maulana Masood Azhar, who started their jihadist career with these Harkat groups. So initially, Pakistan brought some of these Harkat boys in Kashmir and started a very intense and a very deadly phase of militancy. Some of these boys were very well trained. They were battle hardened as they fought in Afghanistan against the Soviets. And after that, Pakistan thought that it's now it's crucial to bring in another foreign terrorist, because the Harkat network has a firm base in the Pakistani society. So, and they are religiously very motivated. So sometimes they can even bypass the diktats given by the ISI, and they can act on their own. And ISI certainly has a very strong religious motivation, but then being an instrument and being like running a state, it has a very strong geopolitical considerations also while running a proxy terror network in Kashmir. So they brought Lashkar-e-Taiba, which is a group based on the Ahle Hadith ideology. And before getting into details, I would also like to mention that another reason behind bringing these different groups is that in Kashmir or in any Muslim society, you have different sects. Like you have Adqadis or Barelvis, which are more like Sufi boys, and you have Deobandis, you have Wahhabis. So all these sectarian groups, they prefer to cater to the terror groups who kind of adhere to their ideology. So Deobandis would prefer to join groups like Harkat Network, and Wahhabis, which is much more fashionable, and which has like its deep-rooted linkages with the West Asian terror and radicalization network, believes in the Wahhabi ideology. So it's something which is considered very stylish, fancy, and cool in the militancy setup, and particularly in a place like Kashmir, where Sufism was already considered very old-fashioned, and something which was kind of a debilitating the martial traits and the fighting capabilities of the Kashmiris. So Kashmiris thought that Wahhabi Salafi style of Islam is much more macho and much more suited to advancing your combat skills. So they liked the idea of bringing in Lashkar-e-Taiba. That's why Pakistan brought Lashkar. And after Lashkar, Pakistan decided to bring in Jaish-e Mohammed. And a very crucial reason for bringing Jaish-e Mohammed was that Maulana Masood Azhar was a very charismatic figure. He continues to live, so he's still a very charismatic figure. And He was a man who was a great mobilizer, organizer, and who came to Kashmir in 1993 initially to patch up between the two splinter groups like Harkatul Mujahideen and Harkatul Ansar. But then he was arrested, he was put in jail, and there were several attempts to rescue him. Finally, he was released after the IC 814 hijack drama, and there was a time when his popularity was at its peak. And ISI was backing him. ISI was funding him majorly. He was paraded like a hero in entire Pakistan. Osama bin Laden loved him a lot. Osama bin Laden was great friends with Maulana Masood Azhar's father and that entire Alvi family, which is respected for their scholarly pursuits in the field of Islam in Pakistan and Afghanistan and the terror network. So Pakistani generals thought that, this is the best time to get more and more recruits for Jaish-e Mohammed. And we also need to look at the fact that there was a time when Pakistan had already acquired the nuclear capabilities. So they could actually indulge into very audacious misadventures like Fidain attacks, without fearing any escalation from India's side, because they had acquired the nuclear capabilities. So they could afford to be more adventurous and wild and I would say more aggressive in Kashmir. So they launched this group with Jaish-e Mohammed, and gave them a huge amount of money. And there was a time when many intelligence officials, now they say that the boys from the other groups like Hizbul Mujahideen, they were shifting their allegiances and loyalties to Jaish-e Mohammed because Jaish was paying a lot more to the cadres and also to the OGWs. So Jaish believes in the Deobandi ideology. So this is like a brief description of how they started functioning. Now I'm coming more towards the differences part between the three groups. So Hizbul Mujahideen is a local group, and they have a very strong local network. So in terms of intelligence and in terms of the understanding of the Kashmir's social, political, and cultural landscape, Hizbul is the best group, and they have resources, they have resilience, they have better penetration in the society. But at the same time, they're not as well trained as these boys from Lashkar and Jaish, because Lashkar and Jaish boys are mostly guys from Northwestern Frontier Province, Fatah, Punjab, and also Afghanistan. Those boys are much more hardened in terms of their combat skills and much more indoctrinated and much more radicalized. And they and their cadres have multiple backgrounds. So, like regarding Jaish, you can say that they come from mostly the madrasas in South Pakistan and South Punjab, and they have this very rigorous, study schedule. So they're mostly picked up when they're too young, boys who are 5 or 7 years old or 10 years old, because in that region poverty is extreme, and generally people cannot nurture these boys, those who are not doing well in studies. So they're just sent to madrasas, and that also gives the families a legitimacy that they've sent one person for jihad, and that's like getting a brownie point, scoring something really meritorious in the field of religion and piety. So these boys, they're exposed to a very radicalized religious curriculum, and they're also sodomized by the Maulvis and the religious scholars, that they are abused in sexual terms, and so that gives them a very frustrated mindset actually, and gives them injects a lot of anger and violence into their minds. By the time they grow up, some of the best ones are sent to Peshawar for further training in weapons and arms, and then the more indoctrinated ones, they're sent for training as suicide bombers. And the training for the suicide bombers is different from the training from the normal ordinary mujahids, because suicide bombers are kept in isolation for about 6-7 months, and in those 6-7 months they are given very poisonous curriculum from the religious texts, which are interpreted in a very one-sided manner. And even in the recent case of Pulwama, when Umar Farooq, the Pulwama mastermind, and he brought this guy Adil Dar and started recruiting him for this Fidain attack, he was kind of fed with a very poisonous sermons and lectures for about 6-7 months. After that level of indoctrination only he could volunteer himself for that Fidain attack. And now regarding the finances part, so Jaish-e Mohammed is a Deobandi group. Being a Deobandi outfit, it has a very, very strong base in Pakistan, and they have a strong madrasa network, and they have a also a huge donor network internationally and locally in Pakistan. Besides, ISI also funds them. And Maulana Masood Azhar used to visit different countries early in his career to raise money, and he is an excellent fundraiser. Regarding Lashkar, Lashkar is more like a corporate enterprise, and Lashkar has investments in various industries, hotels, leather business, cigarette making factories, and all kinds of manufacturing stuff. Besides, ISI also funds them. Lashkar, since being a Wahhabi group, has deep-rooted networks in West Asian countries like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and many charities fund their activities like that. Al Haramain Foundation, and there are a couple of others, who actually became a part of, willingly or unwillingly, of these 26/11 attacks and other attacks in India, organized and perpetrated by Lashkar. So Lashkar also, raises a lot of money by selling animal hides. I have discussed all these things in detail in my book on terror financing. The book is titled as Terror Financing in Kashmir, and it's published by Routledge, Taylor and Francis. It's available on Amazon, so you can refer to that. And I'm not getting into too many factual details because they're all available there. Besides, Jaish-e Mohammad raises a lot of funding through other mechanisms like the MBBS and Hajj tours and travels. Okay? And they have so initially, something which is really noteworthy is that Osama bin Laden provided seed funding to Jaish-e Mohammed. So this Jaish startup was very strongly supported by the Al Qaeda. So that's why even today, when we look at Jaish's operations in Pakistan and the entire South Asia, we have to agree with the fact that the Jaish is the original Al Qaeda in Indian subcontinent. Now they have a different unit called AQIS, but Jaish is like the original Al Qaeda in the Indian subcontinent, and Jaish hierarchy is still very close to the Al Qaeda boys and also the Taliban boys, because Taliban and Jaish, they believe in the same ideology. That's the Deobandi ideology. Many of their senior leaders have gone to the same schools like Binoria Madrasa and Haqqani Madrasa. So they have those linkages also. Recently also, after Taliban's return to power, we saw that Maulana Masood Azhar was very active in Afghanistan, and he was meeting different senior Taliban leaders. In fact, in the recent Hamas attack on Israel, Maulana Masood Azhar was the one who signed the religious decree, the fatwa sanctioning the attack, along with a couple of other leaders, like the leaders of Taliban and Al Qaeda, who were present in that meeting. So this is a brief description about some of these groups. Lastly, I would like to point out that Jaish is an expert in conducting Fidain attacks, which are very lethal Fidain attacks. As an organization, Jaish has brought India and Pakistan twice on the verge of a full-fledged war. First, during in 2001, when they conducted that strike on the parliament. And after that, in 2019, when they did that Fidain attack in Pulwama, but Jaish has somehow escaped the gaze of the International Counterterrorism Committee because it's really good in its tradecraft. And I could really latch on to that part of Jaish, and I finally decided to write a book on Jaish. So if you want to know more details about Jaish-e Mohammed, you can refer to my work Inside the Terrifying World of Jaish-e Mohammed, and it's by HarperCollins. It's available on Amazon. And also regarding the radicalization aspects of these groups in particular, and also in general in the Kashmiri society, my third book would be very helpful: Radicalization in India and Exploration, because there are many countries involved. It's not just Pakistan. There are countries like Turkey, there are countries like Iran, and countries like Saudi, which are involved. And you have various Islamist charities working in the West who are involved, and they have very, I would say, overlapping and very layered relationships with some of these terror groups like Lashkar and Jaish. So it's in total, it's a very complex scenario. And before I wrap up, I would like to say that, our policymakers have miserably failed in understanding Pakistan. Our think tankers, strategic community, policymakers, diplomats, and they still fail to recognize that it's a religious problem. Because in my interaction with very senior ISI officers, Pakistani army officers, and even some hardcore terrorists, they specifically mentioned that for us, it's a religious fight. It's a jihad. It's geopolitics is secondary. Everything is secondary, but primarily it's a religious fight. But our systems continue to emphasize that, it's not a religious fight. Primarily, India's obsession was, the early policymakers was about proving India as a more secular country and more open to Muslims of all ideologies than Pakistan. But while factoring in and while looking at security issues, I think one needs to be very pragmatic, because Pakistan looks at this entire fight as a religious fight. And secondly, we also need to have a very strong strategic culture. Unfortunately, I don't find quality researchers in India's academic circles. Many of my think tank of friends and also the academics in the US and the West, they complain that Indians cannot write. India has been a victim of terrorism for last 3 decades. But who writes the first book on Lashkar-e-Taiba? It's Christine Fair and Stephen Tankle. We do a lot of talk shopping, but we don't write good stuff. Okay, I look at many think tanks in India. They're really fancy think tanks, but not one good scholar on terrorism who has done some real good field research, like something which Michael Rubin would do, Dr. Michael Rubin, something which Western scholars like Christine Fair would do, working on the field, interviewing real scholars like Daniel Pipes and all. That kind of research is lacking in India. Even look at the young think tanks who are working on most of these strategic issues. There is a lack of qualification. You have young people, who are not PhDs, who are not lacking absolute strong academic credentials with good research work. They're just getting into this domain, and people don't want to put in that hard work. I'm very sorry to say, but my professor at Cornell, my senior director at Cornell University, he very openly, he remarked very clearly, and he told to the Indian ambassador then in the US that one of my bachelor students can easily put your PhD guys from the JNU and other guys, in a very miserable shape. Okay? So that's a problem that we face. We need some good quality research. We need language experts. Very sorry to say, but we don't have people like who are experts in Baluchi language or Pushtu or Farsi or religion, even the theology of Islam. It's very difficult to counter the theological experts from the Islamic side, from Lashkar. And you look at these boys from Pakistani side, they put in a lot of hard work. Look at the recent encounters in Jammu and Kashmir. The boys who are coming to Jammu and Kashmir in the recent times, they are so well trained that they are taking headshots from 100 feet. In the last 2-3 years, the encounters that have taken place in Jammu and Kashmir, you've not been able to kill a single foreign terrorist. They've gone radio silent. That speaks very highly of their tradecraft. Likewise, in the domain of narratives and creating, perceptions and discourse, they've done an excellent job. Look at the international literature on terrorism, like the ones published by Cambridge or by Oxford. Our side of story is completely missing. I agree that they are biased against India. Sometimes, they have those vested interest agendas working. But we must admit that, we have not worked hard also. We don't produce quality research work, which which can be published or taken up by those boys. So with that, I rest my case, and thank you very much. And I also request, if there are any questions, please ask me now, because I have to join another interview very soon regarding this Pahalgam attack. So,
okay, thanks a lot, Dr. Abhinav. A wonderful talk you have given, and I really want to second this thing about research, because wherever I go, I've been a director of a business school also. I see among the faculties also, there is hardly any research worth the name, and this chat GPT has further spoiled them, because they are just not applying their mind.
So besides that, there's one more reason, General Saab, there's one more reason. So we run a think tank, and I see that most of the young scholars who approach us for internship, I ask them that, what do you want to do? They have one answer, that we want to get into civil services, and I see that most of them end up wasting their 10, 12, 15 years, sitting in some shady, dirty corner in Delhi and preparing for an exam which is entirely based on rote learning. And I don't know what do you get out of it. Unfortunately, this country places high premium and status, with the civil services, and the strategic experts or people from the armed forces, they don't get that status. Look at the CCS, Cabinet Committee on Security. You don't have a one man in uniform out there. We
Absolutely.
never had anyone from the army serving as the national security advisor. So that speaks volumes about your bureaucrats dominated, system, and if it continues to be like that, there's a very bad picture. The chief of Indian Army, he used to be so high in the order of precedence right after at the time when the British left, but he was brought down in that entire that rank structure.
I agree with you. Okay, now we'll take some questions. You kindly open your chat box.
Chat box, yeah, I'll
And,
go through my chat box. Yes, yes.
And Dr. Abhinav, I'll just request you to take on these questions which are addressed to you. Rajesh Purandare has asked you a question.
So if you want, I can ask that. I can repeat the
Well,
question.
Jaish and Al Qaeda, they're already very close. I just mentioned that Jaish and Al Qaeda have a long history of working together. Ideologically, they're like brothers in arms, and particularly after the revival of Taliban in power, they have a very fertile playground in Afghanistan. And the current scenario in India, where you have a very extreme polarization and Islamic radicalization, it provides a very fertile ground to groups like Al Qaeda in Indian subcontinent to spread their tentacles. They're not really. The Kashmir is already done and dusted. I mean, it's something where the militancy is in an autopilot mode, so they don't need to put in much efforts, and ISI is taking care of that. Groups like AQIS, which they have a transnational jurisdiction, they would be more interested in working or spreading in the Indian hinterland, that is outside Kashmir. Jaish could be very effective because Jaish is a Deobandi group, and Deobandis have a very strong presence in entire India, in almost various parts of the country. So they can facilitate the entry and penetration of AQIS, providing resource-based funding channels, and also the intelligence, and also good recruits.
There's another question for you, Dr. Abhinav, from Shruti.
How is
terrorism turning out to be
India's West Asia policy?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in most of our policy pronouncements, we hear that counter-terrorism cooperation with Saudi Arabia, with UAE, with Israel. So certainly, well, I mean, it is quite an important factor these days, because I think lately the government has realized that the radicalization scenario and the terror scenario in India has a very robust West Asian connection. I mean, it was not accepted earlier, and I must say that most of our diplomatic class, they had this very anti-Israel bias and very pro-Palestinian sentiments without much reason, and they thought that, well, the problems in South Asia, they're totally disconnected from the West Asian terror landscape. But now they are increasingly realizing it as India-Israel ties are growing stronger. But I guess we need to be more very clear about that. Still, we have not declared Hamas as a terrorist organization. And I mean, I don't know what stops the so-called Hindu nationalist BJP government from declaring Hamas a terror group. I mean, what geopolitical considerations stop them, I fail to understand. But I guess, there is a realization, but I think we need to be more serious about it.
Okay. There's one last question we'll take now.
Abhinav become the chief administrator. Well, that's really difficult to say, because I mean, I guess for that you need to talk to the chief of Al Qaeda. Only these are very clandestine areas, and anything concrete cannot be said about their exact organizational structure or the administrative modus operandi. But I can say that, well, Al Qaeda is reviving, and but the ISIS also, in terms of ideology, is exercising tremendous influence across the globe. ISKP is very, very active, and we get to hear more about the activities of ISKP, particularly in the Off-Pak region. So, and I think that these transnational terror groups, they have a very different structure of operations. They provide a lot of operational autonomy, operational and tactical autonomy to various local groups. As far as their control is concerned, that's confined to providing a strategic guidance and a larger ideological umbrella. And after the attack, if some big group like AQ or ISKP owns it up, that gives a very strong legitimacy and credibility to that act of terror. So I think they'll continue to operate with that same model in this digital age. And you don't need a very centralized structure and chain of command in this digital age.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Abhinav. I have got one question for Dr. Divya here. We have the ADG PI in our Indian Army, which is a counter to ISPR there. Why don't you give us a white paper on how we can gear up our ADG PI on the lines of ISPR to become more relevant in terms of strategic communication? Because I want young people like you and others to be a part of this process of the ADG PI and possibly make it a more relevant platform to uh, formulate and project narratives.
Right. So your suggestion is well taken. And in fact, with that in mind, I had written this paper on ISPR, which was published by the Journal of
Thank
Defense
you.
Studies. And I see, yes,
Uh,
sir. Definitely, I'll
and
consider, sir. Thank you.
yeah, that'll be very nice. So we'll conclude the session now because I also have to leave for TV program. So thank you very much, all the four panelists. Wonderful takeaways. First takeaway, what Commodore Deshmukh has told you, that don't underestimate your enemy. Capabilities. We all say that I see so many of our senior officers also saying, POK को ले लेंगे. कैसे लोगे आप? Capability है आप में. कितने किलोमीटर अंदर जा सकते हैं? पाकिस्तान की फौज बैठी है. 3 tier of defenses are there. They've got all missiles. Everything is available. So it's not easy. So let us understand the capabilities. And the second aspect is Islamization of the Pakistan army. It's very dangerous. People like Munir, if he's going to be at the helm of affairs, be sure shot in your thought there is going to be a war, because that guy, he is getting smashed in Baluchistan, he's getting smashed in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The image of the Pakistan army is at the lowest ebb today. There's only one way he can redeem it, by having a war with India. And after that, of course, he also knows the outcome, that he'll be just this thing. So, foolhardy kind of a person is he. So, less, important takeaway. And ISPR was another very important. And finally, what Dr. Abhinav has mentioned about this terrorism understanding, and how we can build ourselves to be more stronger, how we can build up our intelligence agencies, because the only way we can be strong against terrorism is that our people have to be united. There cannot be any local support, and we must have intelligence of these people and also of those locals who are helping out them. So thank you very much, and have a nice day. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. I thank our session chair, Major General Dr. Rajan, Kochhar, and our esteemed speakers, Commodore Deshmukh, Dr. Abhinav Pandya, and Dr. Ashish Shukla, and Dr. Divya Malhotra for the wonderful session. It was indeed a productive session. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much.